When did gentle parenting start? People talk about it all the time. Is it new? Is it old? Let's talk about it in this video. I remember when gentle parenting came out and I thought to myself, well, shouldn't all parenting be gentle? Why is the normal that we would be angry or power struggling with our children? Why should someone be saying gentle parenting as if they're suggesting that every other sort of parenting is somehow not gentle? I thought that was very interesting. I started watching the movement and I immediately saw some things that set it apart from a lot of other parenting models. Now, there are multiple parenting models. They usually fall into three categories. I've written 15 books on parenting so far. Who knows if there's more to come, but this book here talks about the different models of parenting. It's called Popular Parenting Methods, and it really discusses what works, what doesn't work, and really helps couples recognize how to get on the same page with their parenting, which is super great. So I've studied the models of parenting at great length. The three basic forms of parenting are modern progressive parenting, sometimes called permissive, and then there's bully fear-based parenting, sometimes called authoritarian, and then there's traditional strict parenting, sometimes called authoritative. Authoritative parenting is the only type of parenting that is not manipulative in some way emotionally. Authoritative parenting is the type of parenting where children and parents plan ahead of time how they're going to communicate. They follow through. They're super consistent. Everyone takes responsibility for their own behaviors. They accept consequences. They find that's very healthy. They respect parental authority, and children are respected as learners in the home. The roles are understood and respected, and the family is pre-planned. So the gentle parenting movement does not fall into the authoritative or traditional strict category, although I think there's a couple of pieces that kind of nod at authoritative, right? But it's basically a new version of modern progressive parenting. It's another permissive style of parenting where the parent is very concerned with how their child feels. Now, this movement was started, from what I can tell, back in about 2007. There was a writer named Sarah Oatwell Smith, and she started coining the phrase gentle parenting. And maybe she just popularized it. Maybe somebody else came up with it. I don't know. But who doesn't like the sound of that? Of course we want to be parenting our children gently. In fact, actually, I have many videos on this channel about gentle parenting because it is something that people want. I recognize that, but I always make sure to make the distinction between what I'm teaching and actually the gentle parenting movement, because the gentle parenting movement is really disempowering. So it keeps the child in kind of a victim state. They don't often learn how to solve their problems well. There's lots of questions for them. If something happens, the parent's like, well, why do you think this happened? Or why do you feel that way? Or how are you feeling right now? Let's describe the feeling. And I think the point is to have some sort of an emotional connection and emotional intelligence, and the parent is interested by this depth in the child, and they're helping the child to be able to find some inner understanding of what's going on, but they're missing the mark. They're focusing not on thoughts, which they actually have control over, but they're focusing on feelings, and then the focus shifts often to emotions, and emotions are often treated in a very entitled fashion. So it's as if it has to happen, which is a problem as well. This type of parenting approach became popular because I think the world right now is quite obsessed with mental health and psychological things, and so it just seemed like a thing to do. Plus, there was a book written by Dr. Daniel Goleman called Emotional Intelligence. This was written back in the 90s, I think, and he talked about understanding your feelings and, you know, what they indicate and your emotions and stuff. And so that part was really keyed into, but it's almost as if nobody read the part that said you first have a feeling, then you have a microsecond to have a thought. And if that thought is productive, you'll have a productive emotional outcome. If that thought is non-productive, you will have a non-productive emotional outcome. He did actually outline that process according to his neuro research. So he knows that that's actually what does happen, but that part is not actually discussed. And so even though we're talking a ton about our feelings and maybe emotions, there's not a place of awareness where a change can actually occur. And I think this was the problem with gentle parenting as far as the history goes, is that people started ditching it. Recently, they're saying that didn't work. In fact, that made my child worse. That's not okay. My child has become very entitled because of that. I think there have been certain people who have just kind of logically spoken out, posed some questions that made parents realize, oh my word, why am I doing this to my child? This is actually making them get stuck instead of teaching them how to move on. It's one thing to recognize you have a feeling. It's another thing to know how to move on past it so you can get through and it doesn't have to follow you around everywhere all the time. So let's just talk a little bit about compassion, because gentle parenting really is all about being compassionate, not belittling, shaming, your child or anything, which sounds really great. And I agree with those things. I don't think anyone needs to be shamed or belittled. I don't think that we need to make someone experience some sort of psychological or emotional effect of a conversation. However, cause and effect does teach people, and sometimes they feel bad when they recognize they've done the wrong thing, and that's okay. It's a really powerful teaching tool to recognize when you've done the wrong thing. I was just recently reading a book about a boy who, it was an old time book written a long time ago, a boy in the 1800s, and he made some mistakes. He ended up fighting with someone. He recognized later there was a better way to handle it. He felt bad about it. He may even have kind of felt a little shameful, like that wasn't good behavior. But then you hear him in the story talking about how he remembered never to do that again, how that was an important lesson for him. And this is a real life story. So this is really the person's thoughts about what they experienced at the time. And I feel like, yeah, I can resonate with that, because there were times in my life where I was corrected and I needed to accept a consequence. And I knew that what I had done was wrong, and it was good I did know that it was wrong so that I could fix it and not have that same problem happen in the future. So childhood is all about making mistakes, and I feel like sometimes we're afraid to correct those mistakes. Maybe it's because we know childhood is about making mistakes. That could be a reason. But I think that for many people who engage in gentle parenting, they don't want their child to feel an adverse emotional effect because of making that mistake. And I think that just the opposite, making a mistake is a great lesson in life, and we should recognize it was the wrong thing to do so that we don't make the same mistake in the future. And just because something is called a mistake doesn't mean there aren't consequences that follow it, or shouldn't have consequences that follow it. There's consistent teaching that really does need to happen, across the board. The gentle parenting movement started in the early 2000s, like 2007, and then the book came out, Gentle Parenting, in 2015. At this point, the author of the book is kind of sad that she actually used the title, because she feels like it has misled people. My guess is that the people probably just didn't read the whole book and really got caught up in the emotional side of things. That part really hit its mark, but I think the biggest thing really with the gentle parenting movement was what it did respect-wise for the culture. It basically ended up isolating so many people, because if you help someone become entitled, then that actually isolates them. If they feel like they deserve and that they're a victim, then now suddenly they're isolated, they're alone, they don't feel connected. And that's ironic, because the whole movement of gentle parenting was actually designed to improve bonding with parents and their children, to create further attachment so that the child and parent relationship would be good. But what people are seeing is just the opposite. That child and parent relationship is destroyed because the child has so much entitlement, and they were taught that they are on the same equal position as their parent. If a person can't learn how to follow an instruction from a parent and obey a parent, will they ever obey themselves even later? Will they be able to set a goal and follow through? Probably not. Those are the things that parents teaching children, correcting them, training them, that's what it does. And so there has to be active training and active correction for proper nurturing to occur. In fact, if you look at the word nurture in Webster's 1828 dictionary, you will see that it even includes that part of nurturing is to correct. Part of culture is to correct, and we all make a family culture. So this is a vital part of living our roles within the family unit, and the gentle parenting movement definitely did not hit its mark, and I think that's why there's a lot of people who are leaving it now, because they've just recognized it just doesn't work. But if you want to know more about something that does work, that's where this channel comes in. So this is the Teaching Self-Government channel, and I teach all about how parents can teach their children the skills and principle of self-mastery so they learn to take personal responsibility for themselves, which is the opposite of what the gentle parenting movement has been training, and should help stop the tantrums as much. It should lead to more understanding and more conversation, but not emotional entitlement, manipulation, and isolation. So there are so many things that I could help you with there. I highly recommend, I mean, there's many things on the channel here, but if you go to the next video, which is the not so known secret for parenting success, then you'll be able to get a full-length class there that will give you some of the skills and principles of self-government so that you can help your family do something that really will be empowering for all of you.